All right, so watch this clip from this horrendous ad that my guy Sam here recently edited. Now, it's actually a pretty awesome ad, except there is a critical point to this, so pay close attention. You're gonna wanna see this. Who else? Who else is helping total beginners get out of this world results in their online business like this? By all measures, it looks like an amazing ad, right? I mean, there's lots of pop and pizzazz, there's obviously some special effects, and in actuality though, that ad underperformed all of our other advertisements. So what's my point? Well, typically, entrepreneurs spend a lot of time on things that don't actually move the needle in their business. So here's how I set goals that actually break the bank.
Joining us is my man, Keala Kanae. Keala Kanae takes entrepreneurs on a journey to grow their business. He has done over $75 in revenue.
All right, there's a few points to be made here. Number one is to set proper time horizons for goals. Most people tend to overestimate what they can do in the short run, but underestimate what they can do in the long run. When it comes to setting goals, we typically start out the year with a massive goal for the company. And there can really only be one or maybe two big goals. And so a lot of entrepreneurs tend to set too many goals in too short a time, and it's one of the reasons that their businesses don't grow. So we'll set a massive goal for the year. Let's say that it's a revenue goal. Then we're gonna break that down by quarter, then by month, and then eventually it's going to be broken down into weekly milestones for each month as we go through the entire year. So being cognizant of the fact that, it takes a lot longer typically than you might think to achieve goals that we set. All right, so first things first, I'm going to break down for you exactly how our business model works so that you not only understand how we set goals, but you can take our goal setting strategy and apply it to your business model. So generally speaking, this is how we acquire customers and sell to those customers. First things first, we run ads. We are a direct response business, and so we use paid advertising as our primary customer acquisition strategy. When people see our advertisements, they're taken over to a page where they can register for a webinar, which is basically just an automated presentation that explains how we work with our clients. And from there, they have the opportunity to buy a low ticket offer from us, something under $100 in order to get started. From there, they are taken into our members area where they get started on some of the content. And from there, they're eventually pushed into a phone call with somebody on my sales team. My sales team will go through a whole process with them, ask them a series of questions, figure out what their goals are, what are the things that they've tried in the past, and just make sure that they're generally speaking a good fit to work inside of our program. If so, we'll extend the offer to them to upgrade to one of our more long-term coaching packages or something along those lines. So this is how our sales process works for the most part. Now let's say then that the goal this month is to make $3 million in revenue. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse engineer that goal to make sure that we're taking all of the relevant actions needed in order for us to hit that goal. So it's very strategic is the point here. So first things first, let's reverse engineer to the phone call. From here, I'm going to ask simply, okay, what is our average appointment value? Meaning for every appointment that we put on the calendar for my sales team, what do we earn on average? Because that's going to tell me then how many appointments we need to get on the calendar in order for us to hit that $3 million goal. From there, we're going to reverse engineer again and say, okay, well, how many customers do we need to acquire in order to create that many appointments? We're going to look at what is the ratio of customers who actually books an appointment with the sales team. That's going to tell us then how many customers need to be acquired in order for us to get that many appointments on the calendar. From there, we're going to reverse engineer again and say, all right, what percentage of people who register for our webinar actually convert into a customer? By doing this math, we can figure out how many registrants do we need to acquire that month on our webinar in order for us to acquire enough customers to hit our goal, which is going to turn into appointments with the sales team. So we're going to figure out what that number is. And then from there, we're going to reverse engineer again and say, well, how much are we spending per registrant in our advertising? So in other words, what does it cost us to get every registrant on our webinar as an average? And then we're going to have to scale up the advertisements, the advertising spend, in order to ensure that we are setting ourselves up for success. By scaling up the ad spend here, we can then assume that we're going to get X amount more webinar registrants, X amount more customers, X amount more people into our members area, and X amount of more people on the phone, therefore converting into that $3 million in revenue. Now here is the challenge with this breakdown that I just gave you. It puts all of the pressure on the marketing team to scale up the advertisements and then, hope that the lead costs stay the same, the customer acquisition costs stay the same, and these sorts of things. In other words, it's hinging the goal on one department and one activity, which is not necessarily the best way to set a goal. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at each one of these steps in the process and look at, are there ways that we could improve any step of this process to give ourselves more levers that we can pull, that we can throw, and increase, at every step of the process that customers go through. So we're going to look at our average appointment value and talk with the sales team and say, hey, what if we just increase our average appointment value by 10% this month? What would it take in order for that to happen? What would you have to do differently? And we'll talk with the sales team, and then we'll up the average appointment value goal for the team. And that's all that they are going to be focused on for that month, is hitting that particular KPI. That's how they're going to earn their bonuses. That's how they're going to make sure that they continue to retain a spot on our rotation in our sales team, these sorts of things. From there, we're going to look backwards again and say, all right, what percentage of customers that buy from us are getting on the phones, and what could we do to increase that? Maybe we start sending more text messages. Maybe we start sending more email reminders. We're basically just going to look at what are we doing to get customers on the phones, and is there a way in which we could optimize that process? What would it take for us to get an extra 10% lift there? Then we'll look at our webinar process and say, well, what are we doing on our webinar in order to convert customers? What's our email follow-up process? Are we sending text messages? What else could we do to convert more of our registrants into customers? And we're going to look for some additional lift there as well. And then we're also going to look at our advertising strategy and say, how could we increase our click-through rate by 10%? Which means, increasing click-through rate is basically increasing the amount of people who see the ad and actually click on that ad itself. So what we're really doing here is we're looking for all of the missed opportunities at every step of the sales process. We're finding little ways in which we could optimize a little bit better, and that gives us multiple levers that we can throw for that month so that we're not just placing all of the pressure on the one activity of increasing the ad spend. This way, our threats are divided, our resources are divided, and everybody is focused on nailing down their part in the process in order for us to get that overall lift. By doing this, oftentimes we not only hit goals, but we might exceed goal. If we miss goal, we're going to reconvene. We'll do what we call a post-mortem meeting, and we will go through with the sales team, hey, what did we miss here? What could we have done differently? We'll go through with marketing, what could we have done differently here? We'll go through with client success and say, hey, what could we have done differently in order to make this happen? We'll reassess, we will come up with a new strategy, and we'll redeploy again. The point here is really simple. We're not just picking random numbers out of the sky and saying, hey, let's make this the goal for this month. No, we are looking at all of our numbers, our data and our metrics, and we're saying, based on what we're seeing, it's realistic that we could get to this next threshold in terms of revenue. Now that we know what that goal is, let's reverse engineer and work through all of the moving parts to ensure that we're optimizing every step along the way to help us get to that next threshold of revenue. And that's the game. So as you can see, this is a very strategic, methodical approach to both goal setting and goal achievement. So the question might become, now that you've seen this, how can you apply this strategy of identifying all the levers in your business and improving all of the levers in your business to help you achieve your next goal in your business?
Okay, park the UFO over here, and then move with the laser cannons. Quiet on set. We're making magic, people.
Hey, Sam, we just talked about this. Man. Listen, my name is Keala Kanae, and hopefully you got value out of this video. In case we haven't met before, I'm an entrepreneur that went from working in a coffee shop like this for minimum wage to doing over $100 million in my online business, which I say so that you know that everything I share on my channel comes from real world experience of things that I've learned and applied to help me create those results, and I share them here in hopes they help you create similar results as well. So make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you get notified every week when I drop more content like this, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video right here in the lineup. I'll see you there.